So from your perspective, what are some of the most overhyped health and fitness narratives being pushed right now?
Yeah, avoiding dairy, I suppose, would be one of them. And some people are legitimately allergic to dairy. My dad's actually anaphylactically allergic to eggs. So, there's exceptions, but in general, if you have sensitivity to gluten or sensitivity to dairy, or just in general histamine intolerance, people call it mast cell, 99% of the time plus, there's another root cause pathology that's leading up to this secondary diagnosis. So instead of doing, your full mast cell histamine protocol and, taking amlexinox and this and that, not that I'm against those, I do use them situationally in various stages. But instead of doing that, then finding out what's happening with your gut, or even what's happening in another system of your body, in order for you not to be able to tolerate that. And there's a lot of actionable tips and strategies that you can give people too. A lot of times I use colostrum or transfer factor that comes from colostrum. Some people say they can't tolerate any casein protein or any dairy protein at all. Casein is one of the two proteins in milk. There's whey and casein. And colostrum is almost half casein protein, and they do completely fine taking 4 grams of that per day. So you can up titrate that in order for them to tolerate it. Kefir is another good one. There's different probiotics. I think Bifidobacterium lactis and Lactococcus lactis. There's a various good bacteria that can help your gut learn how to digest both the carbohydrates and the proteins in dairy. So instead of just telling people to avoid gluten and avoid dairy, like unfortunately a lot of registered dietitians do, myself and my team of sports dietitians like to give them the tools in order for them to actually tolerate those things again.
Why do you think so many people fear, we could probably say gluten and dairy, but let's focus on dairy now. Why do people fear dairy? Is it because they're being told to fear and eliminate dairy? Or is it something they think they're experiencing that they just intuitively attach to, well, I'm consuming dairy, that's why I feel this way?
Partly, and a lot of people do feel significantly better when they cut it out. Mm-hmm. So it does bind that mu, which is the Greek letter for you. It does bind that type of opioid receptor in the gut. And another thing that binds it and activates it is Imodium or loperamide. So just like a tube of toothpaste, your gut's not going to work particularly well if you're squeezing in random places and not very strongly. So that can be the case when people have gluten and dairy, and people notice their bowels change afterwards. So seems like there's very direct cause and effect, but the dose makes the poison. So perhaps not eating 3 different sandwiches per day high in gluten, and then a whole bunch of glasses of milk. Work your way up to that slowly. And there is things like low-dose naltrexone or LDN, which is actually a prescribed medication. A very low dose of that can block some of those receptors and attenuate a lot of that effect. That way, you're having that more organized squeezing of your tube of toothpaste and your digestion's a bit better.
What are your opinions on raw milk as opposed to your typical store-bought pasteurized milk? Are there actual benefits to raw milk? I've heard people say, we buy raw milk at the farmer's market because it's delicious. You get the cream on top. It tastes like a milkshake. It's phenomenal. Some people will say they can drink raw milk, but they can't drink regular store-bought pasteurized milk. Mm-hmm. Is there validity to that?
There is. So it's kind of a different version of kefir, which is the probiotic yogurt drink, basically. Or, it has similar digestion benefits. So it's absolutely true. Some people do better with the non-homogenized low temp pasteurized milk that you can get. I think Kelowna is one of the brands. But I'm not totally against raw milk. There, of course, is an infection risk since it's not even low temp pasteurized. But I think it's reasonable to drink that for people that choose to. I don't think that it's particularly more dangerous than a lot of the other things in our diet, if that makes sense. Have
you ever heard of the book called Super Gut?
I I think I have. I can't remember if you mentioned that to me
I might have brought it up to you.
Yeah, I think you did.
I might have told this story before, so forgive me if I have. I read this book a few years ago, and I was really into probiotics at the time and kefir. I was drinking goat's milk kefir every day, which I actually love.
Interesting.
Goat's milk, and I love goat cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Steph, when I first started dating Steph, she hated goat's cheese. Now she loves it. But in this book, it provided this recipe to make your own like super colonized yogurt kefir. So I bought these probiotic strains online, and I had to put it in milk, and then we put it in the one of those Instapot pressure cookers. Mm-hmm. It's like 100 degrees. Don't quote me on this. Like 100 degrees for like 72 to 100 hours, something like that. And it multiplied these bacteria strains to ridiculous levels. So I experimented with this, and it was disgusting. Disgusting, like what came out from it.
This was from goat's milk?
This was from regular milk.
Huh.
But it was at a time where I was drinking goat's milk kefir. I also, during this time, got hit with this ad for Camel's milk. I bought like 100 bottles of Camel's milk online.
Nice.
But to wrap up the story, I consumed this yogurt that I made and colonized. I didn't go to the bathroom for like 10 days. So I gave up on that. It backed me up to the most uncomfortable extremes of my life. So part of the reason I share that story is the power of dairy and probiotics and the impact on the gut for better or for worse.
Definitely.